Benjamin Britten, one of the leading composers of the 20th century, loved writing music for children. As performers, he liked their simplicity and intensity. As audiences, he found them highly receptive, very choosy perhaps, but if they like something, and it can be music as new or old as you like, then their reaction is spontaneous and encouraging. One Britten work they definitely did like, and still do wherever it's performed, was Noye's Fludde. The opera is based on a medieval play, its words almost as old as the church here at Orford in Suffolk, where Britten's setting was first performed in 1958. Only 5 years earlier, parts of Orford, along with much of England's east coast, had been flooded by a storm surge that killed 300 people in the UK. Among the properties flooded was Britten's own house at the time, on the seafront in nearby Aldeburgh. By late 1957, Britten had moved to another Aldeburgh home, the Red House, where he was soon at work finishing Noye's Fludde in a studio next to the main house. Britten wrote the opera for large numbers of children to perform, with the help of a few professional singers and musicians. There are parts for recorders, strings, percussion, bugles and handbells, not to mention singing parts and a large chorus of animals and birds. Schools from across East Suffolk were invited to join in. To help music teachers prepare their pupils for the first performance, a demo tape of the whole opera was made at the Red House and turned into a record that was given to schools taking part. Britten himself plays the piano and also whistles the fluttering recorder part that echoes the dove sent by Noye to find land. Rehearsing so many children was a big challenge, one that producer Colin Graham remembered as complicated and hilarious.
And then the rehearsals themselves, with all those hundreds of children and Ben being there all the time. And there was a great deal of laughter, and it was fun, it was just pure fun.
Britten wanted the opera to be staged in a church, and as simply as possible, which also challenged the producer.
How could we make an ark when the animals could be seen and heard? And how could we get 100 animals into a little set that had to go into a little church? I came up with the idea of not having a conventional ark, but having a galleon with a cabin for Noye. Then the problem was, how was it going to be built? Because he had to know, as usual, exactly how many seconds and bars were going to be needed to build the ark, and how could you create this thing that all these people had to be in a short space of time.
In the original 1958 production, the costumes were designed by the artist Kerry Richards. One of the opera's highlights is the scene in which children, dressed as birds and animals, appear in grouped pairs singing Kyrie eleison, Lord have mercy. Once the animals, and with a little persuasion Noye's wife, have joined the rest of the family on the ark, the rain begins to fall. Britten whips up a wonderful storm soundscape using all kinds of instruments, some of them made up specially to create just the right effect. Here's the percussionist James Blades getting ready for a 1971 performance.
We'll have the start of the storm. The timpani, they represent the growl of the thunder. And then there's the first sign, the rain. Drip, drip, drip on the water. That, of course, is represented by the slung mugs. We're ready. 3, 4. We'll have the flapping of the waves, rim of the side drum and the whip, and then we run into the great wave with the kettle drums and the tam-tam and the cymbal. We're ready. 3, 4.
Britten wrote helpful headings in the score for this scene, describing each stage of the worsening storm.
This window will I shut alone, and into my chamber will I go, till this water, so great a one, is naked through my walls.
Noye's Flood is a remarkable work, complex, yet with some parts that can be played by young beginners. Britten even includes 3 well-known hymns for the audience to sing.
I am very proud of the fact that Noye's Flood was performed by Suffolk boys and girls. About 2 weeks ago, I was in Hamburg, great city in Germany, with a great opera house, and they were performing an opera called Noye's Flood. Same words, but not the same music. The music was by perhaps the most famous composer living today, called Stravinsky. Now, his music was frightfully difficult, and it needed the greatest singers and the greatest players in the world to perform it. I wasn't jealous of Stravinsky, not at all. I was much happier with my performance in Orford Church than of Stravinsky in Hamburg Opera House with famous singers with long names ending in Ovich and Uski, than I was much more proud of my performance 2 years ago.